It has been our pleasure to put on this student success webinar series we've hosted all summer. This, as I said, is the 5th session in our 5-part series, and today's topic is on stress management. Our wonderful presenter today will be Amy Dietzman, who's been taking us through various topics throughout the 5 weeks, including time management, goal setting, and a variety of other topics that have been really helpful. I know on a personal level, I'm not a student right now, but actually, obviously, balancing your career, your job, and family life challenges. A lot of these sessions have actually been helping me even as I think about the work that I do. So this morning, Amy and I met to talk about this stress management session. I was telling her I was having a stressful morning, and actually we went through this session together, and it just helped me think about things a little bit differently. So we hope you get a little bit of something out of it like that. So I will be here throughout the session to address questions. If you have technical issues, again, chat those to me through the question box, and then I'll help moderate the question period at the end of the session. So let me pass it off to Amy to actually take us through. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. So I'm back. Hi, I'm Amy. And before we get started, I want you to look at this little meme and see if you've ever felt like this. I think a lot of you on this call have attended my other webinars, so I won't talk about myself too much, but I have really enjoyed sharing this series with you. This has been really the highlight of my summer, and I hope that somewhere along the way I've helped you gather some tools or a strategy here and there, and I've maybe helped you feel a little bit better about your success as a student. So today you're going to notice many tie-ins to our previous sessions if you've attended. A lot of our topics are going to relate right back to what we focused on in time management, study skills, and goal setting. Today we're going to talk about how to manage the inevitable stress that comes with being a student or just life in general, and all the things you are doing in your life. We are also going to talk about how to view stress as a positive and how to prevent some stress in your everyday activities. So let's start by defining stress management. It is a set of techniques and programs intended to help people deal more effectively with stress in their lives by analyzing the specific stressors and taking positive actions to minimize their effects. So I highlighted the action phrases here. We need to deal more effectively. We need to analyze what it is that's stressing us out, and then we need to take positive actions to make it better. So how do we do that? Well, first, let's talk about the different kinds of stress. Not all stress is equal. I always thought stress was bad, but learned not too long ago that the stress we feel when we get excited and when there isn't a threat or fear is actually good. It keeps us feeling alive. If you have attended my other webinars, you know that if you've set an achievable and motivating goal, then the pressure you put on yourself to reach that goal is actually good. But bad stress can be acute stress. This comes from quick surprises that need a response. Acute stress triggers the body's stress response, but the triggers aren't always happy and exciting. Acute stress in itself doesn't take a heavy toll if we find ways to relax quickly afterwards. That's the key. Can you relax quickly afterwards? Once the stressor has been dealt with, we need to return our body to homeostasis or its pre-stress state to be healthy and happy. An example of acute stress is a job interview or something like getting a speeding ticket. Chronic stress is another form of bad stress, and it's the worst. This is the kind of stress that ages us. It occurs when we repeatedly face stressors that take a heavy toll and feel inescapable, like a stressful job or an unhappy home life. Those things cause chronic stress. This is what we normally think of as serious stress because our bodies aren't designed for chronic stress. We can face negative health effects, both physical and emotionally if we deal with chronic stress for an extended period of time. And lastly, believe it or not, those who are adrenaline junkies, I always thought those people were cool. Well, they're actually putting their bodies through too much stress. In this picture, for most of us, the roller coaster is good stress. It's invigorating, our hearts race, and then we do it and we feel alive after. So how do you make bad stress good? Well, first off, you need to understand a growth mindset. A growth mindset is one that realizes we are all growing and learning, and in order to grow, it's going to be uncomfortable. It might be hard, and we might actually fail, but we have to persist, and we have to know that our efforts will pay off. Making bad stress good also means that we know when we need to use our resources to help relieve our stress. We're going to talk more about resources in a few minutes. When we can see the benefits of stress, it will help us to make it good. Just like I said, that good stress is when we can tie it to our goals. If we know the stress is temporary, and we know that at the end of it, we're going to have a degree or a certificate, well, then it changes how we think about it. We also need to recognize our strengths and abilities. We have to believe that we can get through it and come out successful. Some students see stress and pressure as paralyzing, and this leads to procrastination. We talked about it a lot, but it's all about our mindset. Pressure can actually lead to productivity, and we're going to talk more about this too. And we should see threats as challenges. If you've signed up for school, you decided that you wanted a degree, you wanted to further your career, or you wanted to get your foot into a new industry, whatever you did, the reasons why you signed up for school, you already did the very first big thing. You said, challenge accepted. So did you know that believing stress is bad for you and stressing out about stress is actually worse than the stress itself? If this doesn't tell you that it's all in your mindset and how you approach and think about stress, then I don't know what does. So have you ever had trouble sleeping and all you can think of is just, if I fall asleep right now, I'll still get 5 hours of sleep. 5 hours is good. 5 hours is enough. And then a little later, you're like, oh, if I can just fall asleep right now, I'll get 4 hours of sleep. I can go on 4 hours. And the next thing you know, you're stressing yourself out and you're not falling asleep. Well, the same concept applies here. It's all about how we think about stress and what we believe about it. So there are researchers out there who say that we need to make stress our friend. Well, how do we do that? It's not easy, but we start by thinking, how is this stress going to help me reach my goal? When we get anxious, we tend to focus on the negative. So it's a mind shift. We can do this by envisioning what it looks like when that stress subsides. How is your life different? Are you closer to your goal? Are you in a new job? Are you finished with a big project at work and you feel like you've made a difference? Are you living in a new house? What is the means to the end? Then look at the stress as part of your process. I'm going to feel this stress, but it's going to get me where I'm going. So the most common stress for college students is financial. We hear it on the news all the time about growing student loan debt, and it's disheartening. It's a stressful topic, and I know we are all in different places here. This just goes back to how you think about it. So let's think about it now. How can we see college as an investment? So the average student loan borrower pays $393 a month. It seems like a lot to me, I know. That's $4,716 a year. College graduates earn around $30,000 more a year than their non-college graduate colleagues. So these are just averages, but let's just play around with some scenarios. Even if you were to get a raise or a new position after you graduate that paid $5,000 more than you make right now, you'll technically be making enough to pay your student loans. You won't have much left over, you won't be rich, but will you be happier, more fulfilled? Will you see a path to something even better? If the answer is yes, then the investment is probably worth it. It might take time to get there, but it's a long-term investment. So let's say you get a job that pays $10,000 more than you make right now. Still on the low end of the average, but your student loan payments, if they were on the average, are less than half of that. So you should be able to make those payments without too much of a burden. Will you be more fulfilled? Will you be doing something that you enjoy? Is that worth it to you? Now think about yourself 10 years down the road. Where will you be? Envision yourself there and think about if those loan payments will really be a hardship, or if that hardship outweighs the hardship that you might face right now without your degree. Remember, the return on investment may take time. And be ready to make sacrifices. You might be paying your way through college right now. Maybe you're lucky enough to not have student loans. And if this is the case, it's a sacrifice for you and your family. Every time you make that payment, you have to know it's worth it. It's an investment. When you're feeling stressed, you need to know what resources are available to you and how you can reach these tools. For financial stress, obviously your best resource is your school financial advisor. It's okay to call this person and just ask them to talk you through it. What is this on my bill? What do I need to do next? How do I fill out that darned FAFSA? Or you can call your student success advisor or any advisor you might have and ask questions. Tell them what is stressing you out. Their job is to support you. Too many students don't actually talk to their instructors. Sometimes college professors are intimidating. I know this, and sometimes they aren't, but most of the time they will care enough to help you if you ask. Librarians and resource centers are totally underutilized. They have a wealth of knowledge. If you're stressing out about a paper or an assignment, the librarians at your school will jump at the chance to help you find the resources you need. Online libraries have come a long way in the past 10, 15 years. They have live chats, an abundance of digital resources, 24/7 hours sometimes, and writing centers, and those are just a few of the things you may find if you log into your library. And make sure you save that page because you are going to want to find it easily a lot. Also reach out to parents or coworkers when you're stressed out and vent. Venting helps you take a deep breath and release it. It also helps you to put things into perspective. Also, if you're on this call, you might have access to a Tutor.com tutor through your school or your employer or your local library. Tutors are an excellent resource for stress management to help you talk through what it is that's stressing you out, or just break something down in an assignment to make it more manageable and understandable. So we offer an online tutoring option for all kinds of academic and student success topics. We even have tutors who can work with you one-on-one in some of the topics I've discussed in this series. And lastly, if you don't have a mentor or a really good friend who has maybe been where you are, you should try to find someone who knows exactly how you feel and who can give you advice. The fact is, as a student, you are not alone. To relieve your stress, you just need to use those resources. So listen to those you trust and know your limits. If people start saying things to you like, I'm worried about you, then that's a sign that you're probably experiencing bad stress. People can see it. You might need a break. You might need to reach out to your college or university and ask them what options you have. But also know the difference between that normal stress that comes with being really busy, when you just need a long weekend off or a vacation, and that kind of stress that is chronic and bad for your health. As I've talked about before, I've seen a lot of students who convince themselves that they can't handle the stress and they need to take a semester off. And those students often struggle to come back. So know your limits, know the sacrifices you're making, know when you need to make a real change, and if you're not sure, go back to my last slide. Use your resources and ask someone to help you think through your options. TLC. In this case, it means talk, look, and change. Remember how I said that venting helps? Vent to someone, talk to your friends, then look for the silver lining. No matter how bad things are, there's always a silver lining or a way that things could be worse. And then change the channel, which means find a positive distraction, such as taking a walk or a yoga class or doing a breathing exercise, or maybe just playing a game with your kids. Whatever makes you feel good, do that. People who deal with stress the best know how to view it as a temporary, as a positive, and these people are resilient. After the stress is over, they know how to reset and move on. Do you know how to reset and move on? Maybe you've had a particularly stressful semester, like you took some really hard classes, you were in the middle of an audit at your job, your kids are home remote learning, and there's a pandemic going on. I mean, it's been stressful. but let's say the semester's over. You've got a week off. So how do you set the reset button and get a refresh before your next semester starts? Maybe one of these little activities can help. Can you take a day to yourself, just doing something you really enjoy all by yourself? Can you take a drive to the beach or a lake or the mountains? Can you go for a really long hike? Can you take a long nap, maybe a few long naps? Can you visit a friend or maybe your parents if your parents are the pampering type and they're going to just take care of you? Can you go to a spa or get a massage? Or maybe purchase an unlimited yoga package for a week and just take a whole bunch of yoga classes. These are just all things. I'm just throwing ideas out there. You probably have plenty more ways you can relax and reset, but I just want you to think about it. So this leads into proactive stress management practices. To be proactive about your stress, to reduce it and even to prevent it, consider these practices. As I've talked to you about over and over, time management helps you reduce your stress. The more you plan ahead, make a schedule, and keep yourself from procrastinating, the less stress you will feel. Exercise will help you in every stage of stress. Scheduled relaxation periods reduce stress. The key word here is scheduled. There is something about knowing you are going to get a break, like we just talked about when you hit the reset button, and knowing that you're going to do it regularly. This helps you feel less stress. A healthy diet. I won't talk too much here about what bad foods do to your body. You've probably heard it all before, but proper diet can counterbalance the impact of stress by strengthening your immune system, stabilizing your moods, and reducing your blood pressure. Organization. The more organized you are in your workspace, your home, and your study space, the less stress and scattered you will feel. Remember that the more things we have going on in our lives, the more stuff we have to keep track of. So I love British cooking competition shows. They're my favorite. And I was watching one the other night where one of the judges kept telling the contestants to clean up their workspaces as they were cooking. She kept telling them that a messy kitchen was too distracting and was a detriment to their focus. And she was right. You could literally watch how the messy ones couldn't find the right spatula or the right pan, and they kept forgetting things that were cooking because everything was a mess around them. And it reminded me of this topic. The messier and more disorganized you are, the more scattered and stressed you will feel. Limited decision making is another topic I've discussed before. Make big decisions early in the day and take all the little stressful decisions that come up throughout your day out of the equation by sticking to a routine as much as you can. So let's talk about these a little bit more, some of them. There is a reason why I did the time management webinar first, because it is critical to your success as a student. Even if you have a busy life and a lot to do, you will feel differently about it if you know how to manage your time. You will be able to focus on what you need to focus on, when you need to focus on it, when you know that you have time to do all the other things ahead of you because you've planned for them. You'll get to them and you know you will. This is why making lists is important. Some days I wake up and I know I've got way too much to do, so I make a list. Just writing it down takes some of the pressure off. I see it written down, and I know I'm going to just go through one thing at a time, checking each thing off, and it helps me turn my stress into productivity. Sometimes it also helps us put it into perspective. Have you ever thought you had like 25 things to do in a day and you make a list and you realize there's only 4 things on it? Well, I have done that plenty of times. And suddenly I go, oh, okay, I can do this. This is manageable. Does your desk look like this, guys? Well, I sure hope not, because this is not a productive workspace. Some people think that a messy desk makes them look busier. I've worked with those people. But it actually tells me that he's disorganized. He has probably forgotten about what he was supposed to do with all the things on the bottom of that stack. And if I were to ask him to find something, he's probably going to waste half the day looking for it. Chaos, disorder, and the unknown lead to stress. When you start a new class, stick it like a really simple 2-pocket folder and keep everything you need to print out in that folder. And then on your computer, make another folder for all the documents you're going to produce and save everything to that one folder. When you're done with that class, file away those folders and start new ones for your next class. Don't keep old documents and old syllabi where they are cluttering up your workspace. Look at an entire class and lay out a plan to tackle. So here's a sample course schedule. Sometimes this kind of thing is going to show up in your syllabus. I suggest you print this out, put it into a folder like the one I just told you to create, and then add each due date to your calendar. Figure out how you're going to break up these assignments, meaning this: the due date is not the day you start the assignment. That leads you to be all stressed out because all week long you'll be wondering, will I have enough time on Sunday to finish my paper? How big is that paper? How long is that paper going to take me? And you may not identify it as this, but you are causing yourself undue stress and anxiety. Instead, schedule days throughout the week to work on chunks of the assignments. Using stress for productivity is big. Rather than letting an impending due date paralyze you, lay out your plan, make your list, add your work days to your calendar, and then go. Just do it. Use the adrenaline you feel when you've got a big assignment to boost you and give you the energy you need to focus. Remember, it's about how you think about it. So you can change how you respond by changing how you think. So I already told you that if you make a list, you're going to feel better about your day because there's no more unknown. You see it, you know you're going to get to it, and then you can focus on one thing at a time. That's this whole concept of compartmentalizing. Because I used to do my schoolwork first thing in the morning, I was able to let it go throughout my day and do other things I needed to do, like my job. And then after my job, I was focusing on my kids and my family. In addition, focus only on what you can control. And this is so true right now, right? We can't control so much of what's going on in this world. And we're getting stressed out about things that we have no control over. And that eats up energy that we probably just don't have. Exercise, I say this, I think, in every single thing I've talked about, is exercise. Exercise is probably the #1 way to be proactive about your stress and anxiety because exercise releases endorphins. It acts as a natural painkiller and it helps you sleep better. All of these things relieve and prevent your stress. One kind of amazing thing I noticed is that whenever I have a headache, if I just force myself to ride my bike, my headache goes away within a few minutes of my ride and stays away the rest of the day. Now, I don't get migraines. I just mean the run-of-the-mill tension headache. And when I say exercise, I don't want you to think I'm telling you you need to train for an Ironman or anything like that, but just get out for a walk, get fresh air, get your heart rate up a little bit, and you really will see the effects on your mental state. Routines help relieve stress because less decisions have to be made. We talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. The less you leave to be decided when you get tired, the less stress you will feel. Maintain your routines from day to day, and they will become like clockwork. One way to get rid of stress, a hard one, is to turn off all the noise in our lives, and that includes our cell phones. They are constantly alerting us of things, good and bad news, contributing to our stress by adding to things we need to respond to or complete for someone else. And sometimes we just need to shut it off to be able to take a deep breath and walk away from the stress. Recognize your stress strategies and change your bad habits. These can be behaviors learned over years and sometimes aren't healthy. For example, some people cope with stress by self-medicating with unhealthy things. Identify what you do when you feel stressed and determine if there is something that you can do that's better. And I'm not telling you to get rid of bad habits all at once, because that's stressful too. What I am telling you to do is exchange one bad habit for something better for you. Know when to say no. When you're a student, you might have to limit some of the things that you used to say yes to. And maybe these are things you actually really enjoyed. For example, maybe volunteering or hosting big birthday parties, hosting holidays at your house, planning the family reunion. These things are stressful. When I was a student in my doctoral program, I basically just told my family I wasn't up for hosting holidays for a few years. And my kids didn't have huge birthday parties. We had sleepovers and a couple friends came over and I ordered pizzas. I didn't volunteer at my church or my kids' school at all. I wasn't the homeroom mom and I didn't spend hours planning band fundraisers with some of the other moms. I said no to all of that stuff. And I didn't feel bad about it. My kids were still loved and cared for. I still spent time with my husband and my family. I still gave them all the attention they needed and I was still present, but I did not take on extra stress that I knew I couldn't handle. My priority was to finish school. On a side note, I will tell you that I made up for those years because I felt like I didn't contribute to my kids' school for a while, so now I volunteer for all kinds of things. So I did my time. If you like this sort of thing, I researched all of these apps and they are all great for forcing you to breathe, take a break, talk to yourself, identify how you're feeling. Personal Zen is specifically for stress management and anxiety and also has games you can play to relieve those. Happify, I think, is my favorite of all of these. It asks you to identify your feelings and then provides little games and activities you can do to help you with those feelings. It also has discussion forums, expert tips, and articles. Sandelo provides meditation exercises, and similarly, the Insight Timer helps you take a few minutes out of your day to meditate and breathe. I have a hard time doing that, so I don't know if it works for you, but it seems like it would help you relax if you can do it. And I included Spotify here because Spotify has curated playlists for relaxation or study, and they even have a playlist just to make you feel happy. So this leads me to my favorite slide, which is a good laugh has short-term and long-term effects. When you start to laugh, it doesn't just lighten your load mentally, but it actually induces physical changes in your body. Laughter stimulates your heart, lungs, and muscles and increases the endorphins that are released by your brain. Laughter also activates and relieves your stress response and can stimulate circulation and aid muscle relaxation, both of which help reduce the physical symptoms of stress. For the long term, laughter counteracts those negative feelings we talked about. When you're stressed and you get those negative feelings, it counteracts those and it helps you to increase personal satisfaction and it improves your mood. All of these things are good. I told you that I learned to say no to a lot of stressful things when I was a student, but one thing I never said no to was a night out with my girlfriends because we would laugh for hours and I would come home feeling refreshed and relaxed, and it was something I could look forward to. If you have a friend who makes you laugh, schedule a time with them. Watch a funny movie, read a funny book. Find a way to step away from your stress and have a good laugh and see how you feel. So let's go over our checklist for stress management. First off, change how you think about it. Make stress your friend and your motivator rather than stressing out about stressing out. Use your resources. Reach out when you need help. Manage your time effectively. It all comes back to time management. Get organized. The more you have to organize, the easier it is to get lost in a mess and get more stressed when things feel out of control. Use your stress for productivity. Be present in the moment, focusing on one thing at a time and not worrying about things you can't control. Exchange your bad habits and responses to stress for healthier ones. Set limits with your family and friends and say no to things that are too much for you to handle. Maintain your routines so stressful decisions are limited. And lastly, remember to exercise and laugh. Here's my resources. And now we'll go back to Lauren.
Thanks, Amy. And I hope everybody's feeling just a little less stressed after all of those wonderful tips. I know it helped me this morning. I put on my Zen Spotify playlist after we spoke and tried to get some projects done. And it actually did help me feel a lot better that I was kind of powering through. So thank you again. And while we wait here for anyone, if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the question box for Amy to answer, and I will address them with her. But in the meantime, I do want to encourage all of you to follow us on social media because we post a lot of these events and the programming that we're offering there. So it's a good way to, one, find the recordings of all of these sessions, two, see what's coming up next. For example, I know a lot of people have been asking us about the recordings, and for those of you who attended and signed up for the sessions, you'll get a recording in a follow-up email tomorrow, along with a copy of the slides from this presentation. But to find any of the webinars we've covered this summer or even other periods, we post them to our YouTube channel, the Tutor.com/YouTube webinars link you see on the screen. So you can find all of the sessions that Amy did this summer there. And spoiler alert, we're going to actually host some of these sessions again in the fall. So if any of you want to attend the live events of some of these topics, we're going to be covering the topics again and then also having a longer section for question and answers. So you can come with questions that Amy will kind of go through over the course of a half hour. So look for some more info on that, and the best place is for you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or check out our YouTube channel. So with that, let's see if we have any questions. It looks like so far the questions I'm seeing are things I just covered, like how you can get the recordings, and that tomorrow you will get an email that has a link to the recording as well as a copy of the slides for your reference. And again, we post all of that to our social media channels that you see up on the screen as well. Any questions around the topic that Amy can address in our last, I guess we're a little over on time, so we'll take one question if anything comes in. I don't see any questions yet, Amy. I'm getting a lot of kudos for you. I guess a lot of people appreciated the webinar. So,
Great.
Yeah, so with that, thank you again for participating in our Student Success Series. We look forward to hosting these again soon. If you need tutoring help, remember that most of you have access to Tutor.com through your employers, through your libraries, through your schools or colleges, and we have student success tutors who can help with a lot of these topics in a live discussion and one-on-one discussion. So feel free to take advantage of the tutoring support that you have as well. Thanks, everyone, and have a good rest of the summer.
you.
We'll see you at back to school period.